Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome back to MX Bikes, where today we're going to be reviewing the 2026 Arlington Supercross, while a little bit of gameplay from MX Bikes plays in the background. I pre-recorded this gameplay. I'm not playing it live right now, so I can talk a little bit more about the race, I think, just hands-on. And if you remember, I did go to Arlington, and I told you guys I was going to record something that night and upload it in the morning and talk about it. But literally, I did that. I have it uploaded to the channel, but it took so long for it to actually upload with bad hotel internet and flying and everything like that, that by the time I landed back in California yesterday, the news about the penalties / no penalties from Arlington had already come out. So I decided I was going to pivot and then re-record this whole thing. But it was also my wife's birthday, so I ended up spending time with her. So it's all a little bit later than usual. Daytona next week. It should drop a lot sooner. Just letting you guys know that I would have had this out yesterday, but obviously the news changed and I wanted to kind of react to that. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But of course, before we do, spoiler alerts, if you haven't watched the race already, we're going to talk about the Arlington Supercross, who won, and all the chaos that went with it. And I want to start this whole thing off by saying, man, massive congratulations to both Pierce Brown and Hunter Lawrence for clicking off their first career wins in their respective classes. This is Pierce Brown's first career Supercross victory in 250SX. Obviously, he has an SMX win at the finals in Vegas 2 years ago, but that's it, man. He's had a pretty long pro career, and to get to an ability again where he can win races is great, because his crash last year was pretty bad, honestly, with the recovery process and cracking the vertebrae that he did in a very sensitive area as well. It took a long time for him to get comfortable, and he said even outdoors probably came back too soon and just wanted to take more time off. So yeah, like, it's been a long road to even win a race, let alone the last year of his life of what he's gone through to get back to this point. So kudos to him. That's awesome. On a personal note, I like Pierce a lot. He's always been great to work with me. So that's been, great to see his elation the last, 48 hours or so at this point, 36 hours at this point, and all that comes with that. And then on the flip side, Hunter Lawrence, man, he was, 6 years ago contemplating retirement. He pulled his shoulder out again really bad at Loretta's in 2020 when we did the COVID races. And he said he sat in the truck at that point in time and thought, I think I'm done. Like, he had been through so many injuries since coming to the U.S., so many injuries even in GPs too, and it just wasn't seemingly getting any better. And Jet was obviously on the ascension at this point into what we know he's capable of today. So Hunter even said to his parents, like, let's just support Jet. Like, I'm going to support Jet, and that's what we're going to do. And he eventually changed his mind, eventually decided we're going to give it one last go and throw everything at it, and turned into a 250 race winner, 250 Supercross champion, 250 motocross champion, and then 450 race winner, outdoors, SMX, and now finally Supercross. So he's finally completed, like, the triple crown, I guess, if you will, of all that. And yeah, it was a long time coming for the Supercross thing too, because it felt like it was on the verge all year long. Even last year, he said he was starting to turn the corner before he got hurt. And he finished second in a race at Denver in 2024 where he basically stalked Jet the entire race. So, the only person that beat him was his little brother, and they were so far ahead of everybody else. So it definitely was needed, I think, for Hunter to finally crest this gap in the championship scope of things. He's now 4 points up in the championship, pulls away a little bit more. There's a stat floating around that no champion had ever won the series, having not won the first 7 races of the year, within the first 7. So that was round 7, and he got that done. So, kind of is not going to have to make history necessarily to win this championship. But, it's kind of interesting to see the difference. Like, Pierce Brown, raw elation, so excited after the race. And Hunter was excited too, but he was very much, like, locked in excited. Knew that there was still a goal at hand, and he's really focused on winning this 450 championship, as he should. I mean, it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight to win this title, and he's going to have to go through at least 2, if not more, of the best ever to do it to win this championship this year. So yeah, he's focused, and it's really cool to see. So aside from that, I wanted to give them their credit, because I feel like the next part is going to be all just a bunch of not good stuff. And nothing against Hunter, and absolutely, to me, nothing against Pierce Brown, because at this point, I am no longer putting any of this on the riders. Yes, riders did do the right thing at this race with the red cross and red light thing, and it impacted riders who did the wrong thing. But to me, this whole system is still flawed and needs to be fixed. So let's get into it. Basically, if you haven't watched the race or you don't know what I'm talking about, Jo Shimoda, who also, crazy story, coming back less than 3 months since he broke his neck, basically, like a bunch of vertebrae in his neck, healed incredibly fast, only has been on the bike for 5 days, whole shots the main, leads 5 laps, I think, and then rolls the finish line jump, unbeknownst to almost anybody in the stadium because it was in a really weird spot to see what ended up happening. But he rolls the finish line jump, Pierce Brown jumps it, takes the lead, leads from there, but Jo was on him the entire rest of the race, so much so that Jo put like 3 block pass attempts on Pierce, and they're not very good attempts either. Like, in hindsight, I wish I would ask Jo, what were you trying to do in setting up these passes, because none of them seemed to look very good. But so Pierce wins the race, obviously, and then Jo after the race was like, I kind of got screwed. Honda was like, I got kind of screwed, and then we all see why. The double before the finish line jump, the small double, had red lights flashing on it. Now, the finish line jump did not have the red cross flag out, but if you look at the rule book lays this out as plain as day as it can be, that the red lights and the red cross flag mean the exact same thing. Wheels on the ground. Period. End of story. Until you're past the incident. I thought Star would have been saying, well, there was no incident, so Pierce just jumped anyway, and then that's how they got away with it. But no, actually, it turns out what the reality of this situation is right now, at least what we're hearing, because the AMA hasn't made an official statement, they will at some point today, is that smaller double, that red flashing light, is simply just a warning to riders that there is maybe a red cross flag out coming up, which to me is an absolute disaster and failure on all parts from the AMA here. They did this allegedly because they used to do yellow flashing lights as a warning, and then some riders last year jumped on these yellow flashing lights, although that's not true. It was a red flashing light, and then they jumped anyway. But now they've been telling riders apparently on track walk, hey, these red flashing lights are a warning. But the problem I have with this whole thing is you can tell as many people as you want. It is not a legal stipulation of any kind under the rulebook unless you put out a competition bulletin to explain that this is also now part of the AMA Supercross rulebook. It is not. There is no competition bulletin out there that says this. It literally says in the rulebook that the red flashing lights are the exact same thing as a red cross, wheels on the ground. Now, Jo rolled that double before the finish line jump because the red flashing lights were on that double. And then he had no speed to clear the finish line jump, so even if he looked up and saw no red cross flag, he couldn't have done the finish jump anyway. But that's what basically the AMA is saying, is that, he was past the incident, he could have jumped anyway. But then Brown just doubles. So did Daxton Bennick. Bennick also doubled the small double and then the big Supercross double for the finish line jump. And none of them got penalties. No penalties at all. Now, if they chose to enforce this as it's written in the rulebook, this would be a 8-point penalty for Pierce Brown and a 5-point penalty for Dax Bennick. It would be 8 points because Pierce Brown made a pass, so it's the points gained in a pass plus 5 points is what you would be docked. You wouldn't be losing the win. You wouldn't be stripped of any result or anything like that. You would get the win. You would just lose 8 points and also purse money equal to that. But they didn't do that. No points taken away. Same thing for Bennick. No points taken away for him. He still has his full points, so it's still Pierce Brown 25, Jo Shimoda 22, Daxton Bennick 20. And to me, this is an utter failure on the AMA's part here. I don't really care what the explanation is because it doesn't matter how many guys you tell on track walk or on the safety meetings or anything like that. If they haven't written this down somewhere and put it out, it's a moot point. Like, this is not how that works when you're running a race series that's governed by rules written in black and white. And the AMA has done so good, in my opinion, in the last 4 or 5 years. And I like Ezra. I like J-Bone. I like Mike Pelletier, even though a lot of people don't seem to like him nowadays. They've done a great job, in my opinion, in the last 5 years of here's our rule book, and we are going to stick to it no matter what. They gave Jet Lawrence the 1-lap penalty last year at Ironman for jumping the gate because it was in the rule book. Like, people thought they were making that up, but it was literally in the rule book that that's a penalty. And now they've amended it because they realize, okay, there's certain situations where that's not totally fair. They were treating it as if, like, you jump the gate and you got like a 15-second head start, it's a 1-lap penalty. But it was the same whether you jumped the gate and got a 3-millisecond head start versus a 15-second head start. So now they've amended the rules. I would assume now they're going to amend the rules for this too, because they have to. There's no way you can say that in the rule books it says red flashing light means wheels on the ground, but red flashing light on small double before Supercross finish line jump means you can jump that because it's just a warning light. That's not how this works. So to me, I think that's, again, an L on the AMA, and I'm very keen to see what they say about it. And then in the 450 class, maybe even more egregiously so, they accidentally had a red cross flag out. It wasn't necessarily because there was no incident. Jordan Smith had crashed on the back of the finish line jump and then got up and was up for quite a while, but the red cross flag was still displayed. And Hunter, in the lead late in the race, rolled the finish line jump. But Cooper Webb, Eli Tomac, and Ken Roczen all jumped it with the red cross flag still out. And you could see even Eli, when he jumps, look back and be like, crap. No penalties, though, across the board. The AMA, from my understanding of this, is going to use the explanation that it was an accidental red flag, like it was not meant to be displayed. But to me, that doesn't matter, because they've done this in the past where they've actually penalized guys for the red cross flag still being out when an incident was clear. And the rider just had to swallow the penalty. So I don't know how this one is different, because it was clearly displayed. There's pictures and videos already out there circulating. I've seen a very clear video of it, like, as flattened out as you can see it. Like, the flag is fully visible, and they all jump. Now, it was being pulled back as Cooper Webb was going up the face of the ramp, and he was third in line. So you could say, okay, maybe Coop, it would have been a little bit questionable for, but they were all going up the face ready to jump it with it still out, and then it was getting pulled back as Coop was going up. So to me, if you're following the rule books, that's a penalty for all three. Again, I'm not putting this on any of the riders. I'm not saying Brown, Bennick, Tomac, Roczen, Webb are like the worst people ever and they should have respected the rules or what have you. But the fact that two Honda riders saw it, respected the rules as they are written, and then both of them are kind of getting screwed by this, because Joe lost a race. He lost $100,000 plus that he would have gained in bonus incentives. And he also lost a championship lead and a big moment in his career from coming back from a massive injury and 3 months in to winning a Supercross. Would he have won the race? Maybe not. But he at least lost the chance to hold on to the lead, which he maybe could have done given how that race went down. But then on the flip side of the 450 race, Hunter Lawrence, in my opinion, should be looking at a 9-point championship lead right now. It's only 4. They didn't penalize Tomac. It's only 16 to Webb. It's not 21 because they didn't penalize him either. So I just guess I don't really get how you can come to that conclusion that the flag is out, they jump, it's in the rule books how that's supposed to work, and they just say, no penalties. So very keen to see what the AMA says today. Again, to me, this is a massive failure across the board. We're kind of already back to #NeverChangeAMA, because you can't write a rule book in black and white, listen to everything that's in that rule book in black and white for the past 3 or 4 years, and piss a lot of people off by doing that. Like, they took some heat, but in my opinion, to their credit, they did everything by the book up until this moment. Now they are, in my opinion, making stuff up again, and we're back to #NeverChange. And I just don't think that that's how this sport should work. And I think if you're Honda, you have every right to be really mad about this right now. And they've been screwed a lot by those penalties going against them the other way. And now they've had it happen again. So, yeah, we know Honda's very upset. We know that it's going to be pretty tumultuous going into Daytona with how that's going to be. But L, AMA, L, that's on you. You had every right to make this right. Let the winners stand as they should. That's how it's written in the rule book. And take the points away because of infractions. And then fix your system. Like, again, going back to the riders, I think that this is now another perfect example to bring up in-helmet communication for these types of safety events, or bring up they're doing the LED lights on the forks for the race leaders. How about LED lights on the bar pad for you coming into a section and initiates in that section? If there's a red cross situation out, then they have to roll. There's so many better options now. I brought this up to my wife, and she goes, why don't you just have all the like tough blocks in each section lined with LED lights that are blinking red? So like you could do the outer lining of the tough blocks, lined with these, and then it's all remote controlled anyway in based on which section you put in. And I get it, like that also could be a problem with, some of them going off at the wrong time or something like that, but just try something different, because these red lights are this big and they flash, and it's really tough to see them because of the angles that they're at sometimes. And then the flag is going up the face of a jump. They're looking down, doing a double before, then they look up, and then the red cross flag is out. And some guys can see that very well because they're looking ahead. But if you're in Tomac, Roczen, and Webb situation, you're in a three-rider battle trying to defend lines and look back and make sure you're not getting passed, and then you have to look up and see if there's a red cross out every time. Like, I think that there's so many better solutions to this, and there's so much technology out there to make this way easier right now, and they just simply won't do it. We're a decade plus into this being a problem still. Muscan, jumped on a red cross and still won a race in Seattle a long time ago. 2016 is when Ryan Dungey jumped on a red cross, and Jason Anderson got the win that night. And the red cross was on the wrong side of the track. Dungey couldn't even see it. So I don't know how we're this far in. There's technology available, and they just won't fix it. So again, sorry for the rant here, kind of, but I just feel like this is such a failure on all ends again, from the AMA and from the systems at B, to just not make this better, in my opinion. So, but enough about that. Let's talk about the race again. 450 main was excellent, mostly because Ken Roczen, who's been sick all weekend, led the race for a majority of it, and he even said he was expecting that he would get tired, and he did, but he held on for a damn long time, and every time Hunter would throw something at him, Roczen would throw something back up until about 15 minutes in, when Hunter was able to finally steal the lead away late. So kudos to Kenny, because he held on for a long time and he was exhausted, but he still got fourth. And I think he's still really in this championship fight. He won Daytona last year, so who knows? Maybe he can sneak another one in there this weekend. And then Hunter gets his first win. Tomac still, to me, seems to be the most dangerous person in this group, because if he starts in front of those guys, I think he pulls away. He was faster than all of them throughout the majority of the race. Webb still looks very spicy, very good. Definitely can start winning past Daytona. He's not always been great at Daytona, but I think past Daytona, we're back into winning pretty consistently if you're Cooper Webb. So this championship is great, and it's super respectful between all of them, and very, very nice to see. And on the flip side of that, we're down to 4, at least, maybe even 3 if you want to say that Kenny won't go the distance in this, because Chase Sexton is out of this championship, in my opinion. We've had 3 bad rounds in a row, basically, of just nothing good going on with the bike, with himself. I guess maybe you could consider it 4, because Houston, he had some good riding, but then there was crashes and stuff. Then Glendale was mediocre. Seattle seemed to be probably the worst of the 3 bunch, and then this race he got a terrible start and then just ran 6th the entire race, basically. We heard there was positive news with Cowie this week, making developments on the bike, testing stuff. Starts were supposed to be better. Garrett Marchbanks' starts seemed to be a little bit better than his norm, but Chase was kind of the same. And then Chase was Q1 a little bit more so on the board, but Q2 not so much. And just a so-so night again. He's riding pretty good. I feel like that's maybe the one thing that is still his hat. You can hang it on it a little bit. Was a little bit better in Arlington, but nowhere near what he can do. Like, he absolutely, as we saw in San Diego earlier this year, can start well behind those guys and catch them if he wants. That's how much talent he has, and he's just not able to do it right now. So he's out of the championship to me. I'm past panic button to try to get the tracks, lined up for him in this championship. I think it's over. He could win out, and it would still be pretty tough to win the title from here, in my opinion. So that's a bummer, but hey, maybe he plays spoiler late in the season, so that'll be kind of fun as well. And then on the flip side, in the 250 class, I feel like what's fun about this is that, yes, you could say Pierce Brown and Jo Shimoda both will go the distance to some semblance in this championship based on their pedigree beforehand. But I still feel like, to me, the favorites are Cole Davies and Seth Hammaker, and they finished 4th and 5th. Now, Davies was faster than anybody all night long and then took everyone down in the first corner by braking too late. Somehow Seth Hammaker, who he ran into, stayed up, but everybody else to the outside of that went down. It was a big first turn crash. Caden Dudney and Nate Thrasher both down in that as well. So if you're Star, you're kind of like, that sucks. But the other guy won, so Pierce Brown did the job. But yeah, Davies was incredible. His whoop speed was insane. To me, he is like the James Stewart of this series, if you will, if you want to pull this from like 450 yesteryear. Whereas like Hammaker, to me, is going to like almost Chad Reed this. Like he's going to be there all the time, win a handful of races, and Davies is going to have to just like win. And when the bad nights come, salvage like he did it at Arlington. But then now you throw Shimoda and Pierce Brown into the mix, and they're going to be full of confidence from this first round. Shimoda's only going to get better. I know Shimoda feels like he can win this championship now. Like when I talked to him on press day, it seemed like he was a little bit like, we'll see where I'm at. And then qualifying was honestly not that good for Shimoda, but then his starts were great. His speed in the main event was insane. So I'm kind of bought back in now just from seeing that. And then Pierce Brown, we know, has the speed to do it as well. So this East Championship, I think, has the makings to be really, really fun because it's just like really different dynamics to play. You have Brown and Shimoda both coming back from injuries and maybe not like fully ready to go the distance in a championship because like Shimoda we have seen it, but Brown we haven't. Whereas Davies to a degree last year and definitely Hammaker last year have gone the distance in a championship, know how to win races late, and I think are going to keep the pressure on. And so that's going to force, Brown and Shimoda and all those guys to keep riding as good as they possibly can to kind of thwart off those advances. And I don't know, this could be really, really fun to see. So I feel like I have Davies winning Daytona because of the speed that I saw, but I think you could kind of pick any of those names out and give a reason why they should or could win. So that'll be fun. I think Tomac wins Daytona in the 450s, but we'll talk about that when we come to our track preview on Wednesday. Again, just wanted to get this video out and talk about the race. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. As always, appreciate you guys stopping by and watching. If you have any more things you want to add to this video, please let me know. We'll get in the comment section below. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one. So long for now.